Welcome to part 6 of this mini-series about project risk, and in this video I'm going to talk about responses you can have to negative risks. Well, there's 4 options to answer negative risks, and this process of developing options, risk response is the process of developing an action to the risk that you see. Now, the appropriate risk response will depend on many things: the type of the project, the phase, the resources you have available, many things. I cannot mention them all. In other words, the response you should use will depend from case to case. But typically, there's only 4 possible actions you can have when trying to answer a negative risk. The first one is called avoiding the risk. That means that you change the project to eliminate the possibility that that risk would happen. For example, you might decide on changing the scope, or changing the dates, or changing how you get money, whatever. But at the end of the day, the summary is you need to take a preventive action, and you're going to change your project to avoid this risk from becoming a reality. And therefore, I advise this kind of technique for very high risks, for risks that indeed can affect your project a lot. The second technique you have is to mitigate your risk. In other words, you change the plan in a way that allows for you to avoid the threat. So you change the scope activities to reduce the likelihood of this threat, okay? Or you change the cost or the schedule in order to prepare for this potential threat. In other words, what you try to do in mitigation is not to avoid the problem per se, but try to correct the action. So try to reduce the likelihood that it will happen. So here, what you do is you change the project plan not to eliminate the risk, because sometimes it's not possible to eliminate the risk, but rather to reduce the probability of the impact that risk would have. In terms of the third response you have is transferring the risk. In other words, you hire someone outside of the company to take care of this risk. And this is what insurance companies pretty much do. Insurance companies are basically buying risk from other businesses, and they get paid for this. Sorry, they get paid to take away the risk from other businesses. That's what I meant. So here we establish a contract with an outside entity to assume a portion of that risk response, because some risks can be insurance, others can't, for example. But what I do is I try to set a fixed price in order to avoid, in case this risk happens, I will get a compensation for it. Or I can also have someone that makes sure that that risk does not happen. My suggestion here is to include, if you are hiring a contractor, for example, to take care of a part of your work, my suggestion is to insert penalties or incentives on those contracts to make sure that things go smoothly, or even that they perform better than what you were expecting. So here we're talking about indeed creating an insurance or outsourcing the work, and don't forget to obtain guarantees for the support of this activity. Finally, the last threat you can have is just to let it happen, to accept. Maybe the risk has such a small impact that it would give more work to try to fix it rather than just take the hit, let's say. So here normally what we do is we try to establish a trigger. What needs to happen for me to actually manage this problem the moment it happens? So one of the ways we can do that is to establish a reserve of time or money, so we have some extra cash or some extra time to deal with this problem when it happens. But the main point here is that we don't take any immediate action, and there's no change to the project. But once again, be prepared. So accepting basically means that you let the problem happen and you'll deal with it when it happens. So as you've seen, there is 4 different ways to manage negative risks, but the important part is to really discover what is the best way for each risk that we face in order to manage it. Not all of them require action, some of them require more action than others, but at the end of the day, we need to create a response, even if that response is ignoring the risk. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next video of this mini-series.